Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we're going to be changing the front brakes, the front rotors, and the calipers on this 2000 Honda CRV. And the reason we're going to do that is because the right front here is actually worn down crooked. It actually started cutting into the rotor, and the brake pad is frozen. The reason I'm changing the caliper at the same time is because the left front caliper, the slide pins were actually frozen on that, so we're not going to take a chance. We're going to change both left and right calipers, rotors, and pads at the same time. The rotor on the left front was a real pain in the rear end to get off. I beat on it with a hammer to try to get it to come off, which it moved, but it wouldn't come off. I'm going to show you a tool that I use that actually makes it a little bit easier to get the hammer off instead of pounding the daylights out of it with a hammer. All right, so let me bring you in there. I'm going to show you what tools we're going to need and then how we're going to go about doing it. So, all right, let me show you what we need. All right, first thing you're going to see, this is the tools you're going to be needing. A set of ratchet sockets. You're going to need a ratchet with a very long extension, small pry bar, screwdriver, some synthetic grease, a little flat blunt hammer and chisel like this. A pair of vice grips to pinch off the brake line so it doesn't leak. We're also going to need the little wire hanger. We're not going to use it now, but when we put it back together we will. Obviously you're going to need a hammer. And this is the tool I was telling you about to get that rotor off there. It works pretty good. Once you get on here with the impact gun and you shoot it on, it'll pop the rotor right off, which I'll show you. If we need it on this side, I'll show you. If not, then we're just going to bang it with a hammer and get it off. All right, so here we go. This is what we're going to do first. We're going to take out this here. There's a 14 millimeter. This is a 14 millimeter. We're going to loosen up this right here to take the brake line off of the caliper. We are going to pinch off the brake line here first so we're not losing fluid the whole time. We're going to take this caliper off, and then in the back down over in here, we're going to take out that 18 millimeter there and one more on the bottom. Then we're also going to come over here and we're going to take out that Phillips head screw there, and there should be another one in here someplace. Let's take a look and see. It's pretty rusty, as you can see. Yes, there is a second one right there. We're going to take that out too. You can see they're pretty well oxidized. The other side, somebody had already broken one off, so we had to grind it down and just leave it like that. All right, so that's pretty much it. So all right, let me get set up over here with some tools, and we're going to get started, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to take out this bolt here. We're just going to break it loose for now. Same thing here. And then we're going to take this one and just loosen these up and we'll take them out. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to pinch off this brake line here, just so we're not losing fluid the whole time. You could just put a pair of vice grips on here, just like that, to keep it, from dripping out. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to break that nut loose right there. That's a 14 millimeter. I will point this out to you also. There is a bucket down below, just to catch the fluid, because you are going to get a little bit of brake fluid dripping. Take this out. And now we'll just take this caliper off the car itself. And just going to let it drain out a little bit so we don't have too much of a mess. And I'm going to show you what I mean about the brakes, how they wore down unevenly. Alright, save that thought. Sorry about that. That was one of my YouTube people. Okay. Okay. Now remember what I said about the brake? How they wore down unevenly. You see the top here? This is actually rusted into the bracket here. You can see where it's all worn down really bad here. The other side was not as bad as this here, so this is staying applied, and you can see how the bottom here is thick and up here is thinner, because rust is a big issue on this particular vehicle. So that's why we are going to change it. Now the other side, these slide pins were rusted. These are not. The problem with this is that these pads are rusted into the mounting bracket, so we are going to change this anyway. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take out those two 18mm bolts. Now obviously if you have an air gun, you can use an air gun. And we're just going to put this off to the side now, but see how that's thick and that's thin? That's because of the rusting on the where the pad touches into the mounting bracket. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off this rotor. Let me turn this so you can see. These screws here are really badly rusted. As you can see, they're not coming out. All right? So what we do, you grab a punch like this, you put it on the top of the Phillips head screw and you just hit it pretty sharply. And then I use a piece like this, it's a driver, to get these bolts, these screws out, because they usually are pretty tight. So you just put on it, and you hit it, and they come right out. Same thing up here. But I will tell you this, make sure you use this driver here first to shock the rust and the oxidation out of there, because if you don't use this, this is going to strip it out. All right, so we just take these out now. Now a lot of guys throw these screws away. I never do. I always reuse them if I can.
Hey!
Hey, what's up? How you doing? Sorry about that. My calipers just walked in the door. Okay. Now, you can see that this rotor is really oxidized on there. You could try and screw a bolt in right through here, which I've done many, many times. It was a pain in the rear end on the other side. It did not come off. So I just want to show you this. We're going to come in the back with the hammer, and we're going to try to hit it back here to get it to move. It did. So, all right. All right, so now we're going to get the new rotor, and we can put it back together. Let's just turn this. I just want to show you this. Any rust or any oxidation on here has got to be cleaned off. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with a pulsating pedal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a disc like this. I'm going to clean this all up. Once I get it cleaned up, then I'll come right back and I'll show you how to put it together. Okay, now once you have this all cleaned off, we're going to take our rotor. We're going to line our rotor up with all of these holes in here, the two screws that go in there. We're going to line those up so that we can put this back on. Now I just want to point this out to you also. This rotor from the factory, it comes coated with oil. I did clean it off already, just so you know. And then we can reinstall both screws that came out. We're just going to catch them loosely. And I did put never sees on here, just so you know. All right, and we'll screw these back in by hand, as tight as we can. And then we're just going to tap it with the driver, just to lock it in there, like that. Now we're going to turn this back so we can work on it. Okay. Okay, now, I want to point this out to you. There is a left and there is a right. Remember that your bleeder valve is always has to be up on the top, like this, okay? You can match it up, obviously, with the one that came off, or you can even look on here and it tells you right side. All right, so we'll take out this little plastic stopper here. Okay, then we're going to put this just temporarily on here for now. We're not going to lock it in there yet. We're just going to put it on temporarily. We're going to catch those 2 bolts in the back, those 18 millimeters. Now before we go any further, we're going to take this caliper back off so we can work. Okay, we're just going to hold the back of the slider, and then we'll take this off. We're just going to put this off to the side for now. And then we're going to install our hardware. Before we go any further, just to make sure it screws in there, okay? Okay. Like that. And this one goes up the same way. Make sure it's pushed in all the way here. And now after you have the hardware in, now we can tighten up these bolts, these 18 millimeters. Tighten these in. Okay, so now we have our hardware is in here and here, and now we can put our brake pads in there. Now remember, any place that the brake pad is going to touch, you want to put the brake lube on there, and these are all going to fit into that mounting bracket. So we're going to make sure it's lubricated up very well, just like that. And now we know that this indicator was on the inside because of the older bracket there, see? So we make sure we put it in the same location. Fits nice, and as you can see, it fits nice and freely in there. Same thing here. Nice and freely, okay? Now, whenever you get a new caliper, you'll have the anti-rattle clip like this. It goes in here like that, comes through the back like that, and you push it until it's evenly spaced between the two, just like this. And now, remember, everywhere that the brake pad is going to touch, you're going to put a very thin bead of silicone on here, just like this. That's going to touch up in here as well. So we're going to put that up in there too. Okay. So we lubricated every place that the brake touches. We'll put this in here, and we're going to push these back in, and now we can temporarily catch these bolts. Just catch them loosely, and then you push it in a little bit, and again catch it loosely. And now we can tighten up these bolts here. Okay, I looked back at the camera and realized that the battery had gone dead. All right, so we're going to make sure that these bolts are tight here, right? And this particular caliper came with a new bolt for it, so we put on one of the copper washers on here like this, and then we have to make sure that the other washers are gone here too, by the way, which they're both off already, or I should say one of them is off. The other one we're just going to take off just like that, and we're going to get rid of it. All right, so we put the bolt through like this. We take our second washer, put it over the top like this, and now make sure that this piece of the line itself fits into that little groove right there. And then we'll screw it in by hand. And once you've got it caught by hand, then we can tighten it up with the ratchet. Okay, now I've seen people already snap these bolts off, so you have to be very careful when you screw these in. I'm sure that there's a torque spec for it, but I don't even know what it is. So you just have to go by feel. You just don't want to pull it until you snap it off, because you're all crushing down these two copper washers here. All right? Okay, nice and tight. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to take this off right here, and now we're going to talk about what we did. And let me grab a wrench for that real quick. Okay, well, let me just open this bleeder valve and then we'll talk about it. All right, so you just open the valve up. This is probably going to be a 10 millimeter, which it is. So we're just going to leave that valve open right now, and we're just going to let it sit until the gravity bleeds out. Once all the air stops coming out and you have straight fluid coming out, you stop, all right, and you close it. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the rotor. We put the rotor back on. We cleaned up the surface where the rotor touches into. We cleaned up that surface. We put the two screws back in that we previously took out and tightened them. We installed our new mounting bracket. We tightened up the 18 millimeter bolt here and down on the bottom down there. We mounted up our new hardware into the caliper itself, into the caliper bracket. We lubricated everywhere that the brake pad is going to touch, here, and up inside here where they slide. We put our caliper back on. We tightened up these bolts right here. We held this one while we tightened it up, and we tightened up this one as well. We reinstalled our brake line, and we took our pliers off to let this start to drip out. So that's it. We're pretty much all set. Once this, there you go. You see that? You see how it's starting to drip out right now? Now the caliper itself has filled up pretty much with fluid, and we're all set there. So we're going to tighten that up, and then we're going to continue on the other side to put the other side back together. Afterwards, we're going to bleed the brakes, and once we bleed the brakes, we're going to be able to take it for a test drive, and we'll be in good shape. So, all right, so that's it. You're all set. Make sure you're going to bleed the brakes with your assistant before the vehicle leaves. And the way you bleed the brakes, as you know, is you have your assistant get in the car. They pump the brake pedal up until it gets nice and hard, stays up on the top. They step on the brake. You open up the bleeder valve, let all the air out. Their foot goes down to the floor. They close the bleeder valve. They take their foot off, they pump the brake pedal again, bring it back up to the top, and you repeat that 3 or 4 times until you have no more air coming out of the bleeder valve itself. You start on the right front, and then you go to the left front. If you're doing the back, you always start to bleed the vehicle the furthest point away from the master cylinder, which will be the right rear or the right front. That's it, you're all set. All right, any questions or comments? You need to talk to me about anything, send me an email. I'll be more than happy to talk to anybody about anything. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.